Welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection between humans and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hello.
Hi, Guthrie.
And happy January.
Yeah.
We are in the middle of the very cold spell
Yeah.
that's going around. And you are in Wisconsin. Can you please tell the audience in centigrade or approximately?
Centigrade. Oh no, I don't know centigrade.
You can do it in freedom units, and I can translate.
Okay. Well, it's very warm here for us. Like in mid-January, we would expect to be much colder than this. So for us right now, today, I think the high was -7 Fahrenheit, which is what centigrade?
One of the I'm gonna have to, I could take a guess. That would be -21 Celsius.
Celsius.
Yeah, -21. Things get weird because they're both the same at -40.
Oh,
right.
okay.
So
Yeah,
it's
I
hard.
don't
It's
understand this at
sometimes
all.
hard to get that
Yeah.
conversion. right?
Anyway, it's, normally at this time of year, it'd be very common for the high to be -20 Fahrenheit, which would be what Celsius?
That's gonna be -28 Celsius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so even though it's for this year, because it's an El Nino or something, is quite cold, -7 Fahrenheit is not that cold for me.
Yeah. So
I don't like it,
But the
though.
summers are nice. Let's
The summers are beautiful here.
let's move on to our topic. I just
Okay,
wanted to...
sorry. I wanted to talk about weather a whole bunch more, but no, that's all right.
Well, we should do 2 hours on
2 hours on
local
weather in Wisconsin.
So today's topic is
Yeah.
about something that, I think a lot of people, and including us, we've been guilty of this over the years. We got some stuff wrong, and
What? We never got anything wrong.
I think over the last couple of years, people have been, everyone's looking for like the next thing.
What's the next big thing?
I've been watching some videos. I've been reading some posts about screens, and I've been formulating some thoughts, and I wanted to we talk about that today.
You want to talk about screens?
We'll talk about screens. So, over, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I'm not going to do a whole history of screens. Obviously, the graphical user interface kind of came about, but even before then, you had the character user interface. So we've been doing screens as the input for technology for 50 years now.
I would say
it's been a long time since
40.
We've been,
let's say 40.
Yeah. So basically, you have some sort of input, maybe a keyboard, maybe a mouse, maybe touchscreen, and a screen.
Yeah.
And that has been sort of the way we have interacted with computers for a long time. And so we are approaching an inflection point where for the last, I would say, decade, people have been trying to figure out, okay, we've been stuck here with screens for a while.
Well, we've been messing around with screens, we've been messing around with screens too, because, the iPhone. And so now the computer was in your hand.
It's still a screen.
It's still a screen, but the screens got really small, and then they got big, and then they got really big. So now you can have a really big screen, or you can have a really tiny screen, but they're still screens.
Let's put smartphones aside.
Literally, you want me to take my smartphone
for just for a moment?
Okay.
Because in some ways, a smartphone is a little different, and I know that sounds strange, but it's a little more like a notebook. Like like you're drawing on a little piece of paper, or I'm trying to analyze. Oh,
is the cold getting to your head?
Anyways, I'm trying to sort of draw a parallel between, what humans are naturally good at and what we kind of prefer.
Yeah.
And screens versus not. So let's put smartphones just to the side, just for simplicity, for the moment. We will come back. We'll come back to smartphones.
Okay.
But most of the way that we've been interacting have been the screen. So people are trying to figuring out, okay, what's the next big thing?
What happens?
And so for a little bit, it was like voice interfaces. Everything will be voice, and you'll have a chat bot, and you'll do stuff.
You'll just talk.
We'll get into that, but that seems to maybe not be the path forward. And then it was, now we're like, okay, VR, AR, that's actually sort of the future, right? So
although there's still screens.
There's still screens, but like
different.
The interface isn't a screen, if that makes sense. So for example, in a AR device, you're wearing a screen, but to you it just looks like a room. You're not looking at a room.
Vision. It looks like your vision. And VR is the same thing.
Version would be fancy glasses, right? So that's not really a screen. You're looking at the world, but it's being, projected upon.
Yes.
And of course, the ultimate version of that, the end game, is the Star Wars Help Me Obi-Wan holographic thing, right? So there are no screens. There's like holographic projections that you can see.
But it's still visual.
Oh, yes, it's still visual. Yes, still
but
visual.
Not a screen.
But not a screen. And so, so those are sort of the two, but so we're not saying they're related, but people have been looking to, okay, what's the thing after screens?
Yeah.
And there's an article that I read called Screens Are Good, actually. And it sort of makes an impassioned plea for, people are always trying to think of the next thing after screens, but like, what if screens actually are the way to go? And there's I watched a similar video by a YouTuber, and he talked about crabs. So
crabs.
Yeah. Now I'm taking him at his word. I don't know a whole lot about crabs, but apparently in the animal kingdom,
yes,
obviously there are crabs that look like crabs, and they act like crabs, and they have sort of crab-like features.
You're crabby.
But there are many other species that are not crabs that have over time evolved to sort of be crab-like. So they're actually not in the crab family.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But they're sort of family, like,
but now they have crabbish features.
Yeah. And so there's something about the crab that is just like this. It's called carcinicization. Carcinicization, which is a form of convergent evolution in which non-crab crustaceans evolve a crab-like body plan.
Because it must have some advantages.
So for example, king crabs are actually
not crabs.
Evolved from a hermit crab, a porcelain crab, which is actually closely related to a lobster. There are, hermit crabs, which are not crabs. And then there are true crabs, which are true crabs. So anyways, I'm not going to pretend I know a whole lot about it, but it's just this idea that there's sort of like, I don't want to say an ultimate, best whatever end game, but there are certain things that just work. And the paths tend to converge. Okay. Now he was making this point, and stop me if I'm rambling too much or not making any sense, but I'm
You mean I should have stopped you when we started the podcast?
That's great. That's good.
No. I'm kidding. I'm teasing.
I know you're kidding. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Should I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was making that point in regard to screens. Screen evolution. So there are multiple screen technologies. We talked a little bit about them last episode because we did sort of a CES roundup. And for the first time in years, it does feel like there's some big progress being made in screen technology.
Mm-hmm.
And what he made the crab point, because there used to be LCDs, right?
Yeah.
The LCDs, liquid crystal displays, they've been around for a long time. Then there was OLEDs.
Yeah.
Right. And OLEDs the whole thing was, well, the way an LCD works is there's always a backlight on.
Yeah.
And so you block out as much light as you can, but it's always going to be that kind of gray thing.
Yeah.
But when it's bright, it's actually really nicely bright.
Mm-hmm.
And it can switch pixels really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And OLED, when it's black, it's totally off.
Yeah.
And it's much thinner because it's much more simple. It's just
Yeah.
like lights. But they can't get as bright and they burn out or burn in, or, like they fade over time. And so there are like downsides to OLEDs.
Yeah.
And then there's this other technology called micro LED.
Okay.
Which is like MLED is basically instead of having instead of having a backlight with pixels,
yeah,
the pixels are the backlight. There is no backlight.
Okay.
You just have each pixel is actually an LED like you'd have in an LED light bulb.
Yeah. Okay.
But they're so small and so close together that they become the pixels.
Yeah.
That's benefits are, right, when it's off, when it's black, it's off.
Are those out?
Yes, they are coming. Now, are they like $100,000? Yes.
Okay.
So and the other problem is that they can't quite get them close enough.
Yeah.
So the thing with that sort of technology with the LEDs, and many people call that like the holy grail of screens, because like if we can get it where instead of having pixels, it's just the light source is the light source, and then there's the problem is the assembling of them, because you think of a 4K display, it's like 4,000 by whatever, it's a ton, it's millions and millions and millions of pixels,
right?
And the problem is that right now they have to put each pixel next to each other.
Oh yeah,
and it just takes forever. So they need to develop a technology where they can just print the LEDs on a sheet. They're working on that kind of stuff. So there are obviously drawbacks to that because of heat and space.
Would you consider these all screens?
Yeah. These are all screen technologies. Okay. But the thing that he said that was interesting was, even though they all have benefits and they all have drawbacks in their own way. Right? Some are cheaper, some are more expensive, some are brighter, some are darker, some have better contrast, some switch faster. They are all converging into a central like screen grab. Like it's not like.
What do you mean converging into a central?
Well, you can think of like maybe back in the 80s, there were different kinds of screens, right? There was like the old Timex watch screen. Like the calculator screen.
Yeah.
And there were CRTs.
Yeah.
And there were different screens for different purposes.
Yeah.
And it seems like now all of the different screen technologies are converging into one ultimate thing.
Yeah.
Which is to be a relatively cheap, to have perfect blacks when when you want black, it looks like it's off.
Yeah.
To be bright, really bright.
Yeah.
Really bright. Great color accuracy.
Yeah.
Fast pixel response time, and lasts a long time. And so like OLED, they weren't bright. So they've been making a lot of strides to make OLEDs brighter.
Yeah.
And LCDs, they weren't black when they were off. And they've been making a lot of strides to make them blacker. So like all these technologies are converging into like one ultimate perfect thing. And so he used this analogy of the graph. Okay, so this brings us now to the part where I kind of bring you in, which is what if screens, which we've had with us forever and ever and ever, what if like they are the crab? Like screens are just actually really good, and there's not a better way that humans want to interact with something. And did you look at what is it? It was Humane, which that was the little like the AI pin that was a replacement.
That
doesn't have a screen.
Your hand.
There's a little projector that did like a something, but most of you like talk to it, and so there was, people used it, and it was just like, I don't know. Is this really how we want to interact with technology, where there's a camera that constantly monitors everything we do and then gives us inputs and then or outputs, and we have to communicate it in some way? Like,
yeah, that thing doesn't sound like a good idea.
Like,
I hope they didn't
why would a
invest a lot of money in that.
why is a screenless future good? Right? Maybe screens actually are the future, just like they were the past. And so I will stop. I'm sorry for the really long preamble and amble and post amble. But so let's just take a pause, and
Okay.
I want to hear your thoughts about the user interface and the human necessity of screens. In the same way that like dials will always be a thing, because we humans we were evolved from monkeys. We like to grab and turn and push and button, like buttons. I don't think buttons. We're not going to evolve past buttons.
I don't know. We kind of are, because they're all becoming digital on a screen.
And then everyone hated them, and it was like, bring us the buttons back.
No, they're still, but in a lot of cases, they're not bringing the buttons back.
Well, that's maybe true. You can, in fairness of that, like iPhones, they have the haptic feedback. So when you press it, it's not really a button, but it does sort of feel like a button.
Yeah.
When you press it. So, but yes, screens, thoughts.
Okay. Can you ask me a specific question?
Do you think that screens are is there something about the way we interact with technology where screens are sort of the best way to do that, or the most fun way to do that?
I don't know. It really depends on how technology, but about what you mean by technology, to tell you the truth. Because if you're we're so used to screens if we're communicating with what we think is a computer device. We just have this really strong mental model, which is, oh, I'm going to go online. I'm going to open this software. I'm going to open this app, and I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to look up information. I'm going to fill out a form, all that stuff. And we expect to do it with a screen. So if you're going to change, so if you're talking about interacting with computers as we know them today, then I think it would be a very hard change to change screens. You'd really have to, work to change the mental model. And as we've seen so far, that hasn't gone particularly well. So, what was all the stuff that was supposed to be sewn into your shirt? Special fabric. So if you wanted to make a phone call, you just brushed your arm.
Just sort of, forget about the what exists so far.
No, but
blah,
I'm just saying.
But yeah, one of the futures was the interacting with your hands, hand gestures for everything.
And as you meant, right, hand gestures, and as you mentioned, speech. So there have been attempts to get us away from screens, and we resisted. Now, part of that is just we're so used to that mental model, and part of it might be what you're talking about, which is maybe this really is the best way to interact. But I think what we also have to think about is if the model changed about, let's see, how am I trying to say this? Really, we're still talking about what's the best way to interact with a computer or the internet, or right. But if technology changed drastically, then maybe the way we interact with it could change drastically. But if you're talking about, no, let's just say, technology, there's still software and there's still apps, and There's still internet, and it's just how do we interact with those things. Then possibly the screen will stay. But I think it's just part of it is just think about, I'm going to be boring, but just think about when we've made these big shifts, right? Like we shifted from horses to cars. That was a big shift. And the way you interact with a horse and a buggy is not really the way you interact with a car. Even though they both kind of do the same thing, they get you from place A to place B. Really different interaction. The shift from radio to TV.
Yeah, well, that is a change of senses. So that's
because radio was how we got communication from the world, right? We got entertainment and news, and it came over the radio. And then it shifted, and we got entertainment and news over the TV.
Now, here, okay, so this is where things get a little interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll try to do one at a time because it's too easy, and this is such a broad topic. You can get carried away in the weeds. Let's start with the car.
Okay. Yeah.
We did go from the horse and buggy to the car. I suppose that is a difference.
Yep.
But there was also a bicycle in there. And a bicycle is kind of similar to a car. It's closer to a car than a horse, I think. Or you could argue, if you are driving a horse and buggy, right? You're steering it in the same way we do a steering wheel with the horses, so maybe it's sort of similar. I don't know. So I'll just put that there. And the second one you said was really interesting because yes, we went from radio, which was auditory, to television, which was visual.
Yes.
But before radio, it was either like actors in person or books, which was visual. So we went from visual to audio, and that was fun for a little bit. But really, we wanted to go back to visual.
Well, and this is
even better, we went from audio and visual, which is like watching the Shakespeare play, to audio only, which was radio, and we wanted to go back to audio and visual.
Well, the difference between, a play and radio or a play and television is the mass communication, right?
Well, yeah, that was definitely a difference, but just from a user perspective, right?
Okay,
you could do it from home. But
we are very visual animals. Humans are very visual. We like to receive visual stimuli. I mean, reading is visual.
Can we talk about the senses? I'm glad you brought up the senses.
Absolutely.
So this is one of the biggest arguments for why screens will never go away, or not even go away, but like why screens should be the way we communicate with technology. So a lot of times when people are showing a future of like communicating in a way that's not a screen with a computer, it's some person in their giant suburban house all alone with no one around, like cooking some broccoli or something, right?
Okay.
Or like going on a jog, and they're like, set a timer for 15 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. They never show them in a New York City subway train car with 40 other people, or on an airplane, or in the office.
Right.
Right. Like imagine working in a cramped office with a bunch of stuff, and literally everyone is just yelling at an AI assistant constantly. And then there's like a microphone, and there's 1,000 AI assistants like blasting, So like it's all fun and games until there's 40 people in a subway car all trying to talk to their smart wrist chat bot at the same time. So a screen is really nice because it's quiet, so you can use it in quiet places. Everyone can be using their device without everyone else hearing or seeing what they're doing. And so there's like a bunch of people can all be, you know, in a spot using the technology without bothering other people. Right. And that is now I guess you could do it. So I don't know how else can we get information. The only way I can see that we get information in is either through auditory. You know, we could get like bumps or vibrations or something, but I don't think that's like, it's not going to tell us who won the football game if we have like a device that's like buzzing in our necks or something. So haptics.
Well, okay.
You can do something with haptics, but
you know, the research haptics is very interesting.
But if I want to text you, right? And I say, text Susan this, okay? And then I get a response back that's like, bzz, 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 right? Like I need a screen so I can see what the message is.
Not necessarily. You actually can. There's some interesting research. I think the guy's name is Dave Eagleman.
I know the research, but I don't know if that's good enough. If people, like, is everyone going to be starting doing Morse code?
It's not Morse code, by the way, but haptics are interesting, and I think we downplay them. However, there's one. I understand what you're saying, but there's one other. If we're really talking about the future, there's one other. So yes, if we talk about the same things, our senses are hearing, sight, smell, taste, and touch.
Well, or this the last sense
is
a connection directly into the brain.
Directly into the brain.
So maybe that's the answer.
I was going to bring up.
I know.
You knew I was going there. Yeah, because there are brain interfaces. So that would be.
Maybe that's the holy grail of it all.
That would be the other. as far as I can think, that's the only other place to go. So, now, first of all, let's pause before we go there, because then there's like, we could go to, a contact lens that you put in your eye, and then the screen is
this
right
is
there.
This is the AR, VR,
it's like, right? Or
that's the same as the hologram thing.
It is. It's just like putting it in your body instead of something outside your body, but it's still visual.
I mean, again, I do think holograms is maybe like the perfect way to go about things.
But the other way to do it would be the brain interfaces. Yep. So
the thing I want to say about the brain interfaces is obviously that's a totally different world.
That's a totally different world.
And I just want to say there are multiple ways that might happen. And obviously one way is the visual cortex, where like it's like AR, but only you can see it because it's going straight to your visual cortex.
That's right.
But another way to do it is, where's the Eiffel Tower? What city is the Eiffel Tower in?
Paris.
How do you know that? Right? You just know. It's like you just know it, right? It's just like your brain is like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So there's a way in which I see that, like, if you're connected directly to the brain, like you don't have to get the signal. You don't have to see it pop up in your visual cortex or something, or hear it in your brain or whatever. You just know it, right? So what do I know? Well, I know that you want to meet me for lunch at the deli. How do I know it? I just know, right? Because the signal has come directly into my brain, and you send me a message, and so it doesn't. You don't need to go through the layer of reading and blah blah.
And
blah.
you can you can go the other way as well. So I can think something, and that is communicated.
And that is that. Yeah. Now let's put a pause on that, because if we're just like thinking and communicating directly brain to brain, the world is totally different and none of the rules apply, and like it's a dystopia or a utopia, or like that changes a lot of stuff. Yeah. So let's just put that.
You want to put that one aside?
I want to put that one aside.
All right.
Because
so you want to talk
who knows
about
what that'll look like.
All right. Well, then
but you're 100% right that is like maybe that's maybe the way you get past screens. But as long as we are constrained through, our little fleshy
senses,
human kind of senses, screens have a lot to offer. It allows us to be in the real world like 80% of the way if we want. And we can look in the digital, but then we can look not in the digital.
Yeah.
Versus, for example, an AR VR lens where we're always in the digital.
Yes.
You can't. It's hard to take a break.
Separate it. Yep.
It is. You don't have to wear anything on your head. You don't have to deal with. The physical encumbrance of a screen.
Yeah.
It's very adaptable, in which you can have a cell phone close to your face. You can sit back in a movie theater. There's a lot of different ways that you can use screens. The screen tech is still progressing. They're going to get better and brighter and more responsive.
You know what I think would be a big change with screens that would be extremely useful?
And what?
Screens, big screens. And I mean, mobility. So I know you can pick up your mobile and walk around and stuff. But that's still a little screen. If screens could become, what happens with screens, and we spend so much time with our computers and online. I mean, you and I are doing this podcast, and we're doing it
staring at a screen.
We're staring at a screen and a camera and a screen. So I'm now locked, like I can't move if I move more than a few inches, I'm not in the camera anymore. And even if I wasn't on camera, if I moved too far, I can't see the screen anymore.
Right.
If we could do something, I think a big improvement would be something that allows us to move. Because what I wanted to say was, we're talking about the senses, which is true. The 5 senses: sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch. But the thing we're forgetting is not a sense, but it's a very important part about being human and interacting with our world, is we move. We move in the world. We go from place to place. We walk around. We turn around. We move our bodies. And right now, screen technology has us tied to one spot. And I think this is, a huge thing. And with all the online meetings and everything else, it's an issue, I think, that we've all become a lot more aware of than perhaps we were before. It's just how stationary we are, which is, it's not good for our health and is annoying. And so I don't know. There was this is not the answer, but there was these, I don't know what happened to these. When the whole online meeting thing was getting popular pre-pandemic, so I'm talking about the very first iterations of online video meetings, there was a company, I don't remember who it was, and it had a screen on a stick on wheels, and you could wheel the person. So if you're having a meeting, you just grab the person and you wheel them around wherever you want them. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I don't think that was particularly popular. I've never seen one really in use, and I haven't heard anything about it in a long time. So that was a startup that probably didn't make it. But just this idea that we could be more mobile. I think there's something there.
Well, I do think that, I mean, in some ways, yeah, you're right about that. I do wonder, laptops allow us to do it a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah. But then,
really.
but not really. And part of the other problem is not necessarily just the screen, but the input, the keyboard.
Yes.
Right. And so, how then do you do the input? And one of the reasons screens are so great is because it's instant reaction and feedback. So when you type, when you're interacting with the computer, you can instantly see what you're doing and how it's reacting. And I think that's really important in a way that, you don't with audio and you don't with other stuff. And so how then, if you're moving around, how can you communicate with what you're trying to do without, you're taking a whole station with you, and that this is a problem.
So then tell me why virtual reality doesn't solve this, because I don't think it does, but somehow it seems like it should, right?
Well, and maybe
because you can move around.
When Apple Vision Pro comes out, maybe that's the answer.
I don't know. Something.
Well, I will say, for example, I got Bluetooth headphones a couple of years ago. It did change the way I do things. I had my headphones would be connected to my phone, but now that I'm wireless, you put the Bluetooth headphones on and you can, throw a phone somewhere and run around and go outside, and it really does change the way that you sort of interact with stuff a little bit. And so maybe,
but mainly auditory, not visual.
Yeah. Well, now, so let's talk about VR and AR. They're annoying in a lot of ways. They're kind of, the use cases are especially, so the Apple Vision Pro, really what it does is it allows you just to have big screens wherever you want them. That's sort of
right. It's still
instead of having a Mac in front of you, you now see the room and then there's just a screen, but you can move the screens around. So, maybe there's like the way we did when we solved this problem a little bit with a phone, right? I don't want to be at my computer all the time. I'm cooking in the kitchen. I want to see a recipe. I want to watch a video, but I'm not at my computer. We need something more mobile. And so now we have these cell phones where you can be mobile. Maybe that is a place for AR headsets where I want to be more mobile and I want to do stuff, but ... So maybe you put on the lenses to when you walk around, and then you take them off and go sit at your desk and use your regular screen because you don't want to be wearing a headset all day. So, maybe that's the way it works. So there's times when you're more active and times when you're not. But yeah, I'm not sure, if you're jogging, I don't know how you send an email while you're...
Well, how about you don't?
Don't what? Jog?
Send an email.
Oh.
No, you should jog. Just don't try and send an email while you're jogging.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just, I think I'll give you another question. If you don't have a screen, there's so many how do you do things? How do you organize data and files? How do you write? How could you write a novel digitally without a screen?
You could just speak it.
But you can't, right? That's not how writing works. You write and then you look at what you wrote and you're like, oh, this is terrible. And you take to delete and undo and, and reread, rewrite, retry. Like you need to work with it. You need to see what you've done. And so, I just don't know how you do any of that stuff without a screen. So screens in some ways, I think, became sort of unsexy. They were just like, oh, they're old. It's the old way to do stuff. Yeah, you're tethered to a desk, keyboard and mouse. And now the other way, maybe like we don't need to, maybe we just need like better screens.
Okay, so now let's talk about the better screens we want. So I want a screen that's very lightweight. I want a screen that does not take up very much room on my desk, that does not need a huge stand or foot or something, because right now I have 2 screens on my desk and they just take up my whole desk. I don't like it. And they're heavy and they're just a pain to move around and connect anything to. I would like the screens to be lightweight, not take up much space. I want the connecting of things to be wireless. Don't want a wire. I just want it to connect. Well, you laugh, but my phone doesn't have, unless I'm charging it. There's no wires.
Yes, there are.
Not that
The screen connects to the computer in the phone.
I know. I know I get that. But I'm just saying I want it, and I don't want to, like you and I just recently were having a conversation about screens and televisions and stuff. It's like I don't want to have to hire someone to come in and hang up a screen for me because I don't know how to hang it up and how to run the cords, and I don't want that. I want it to be really easy, really lightweight, really big. Yeah, that's what I think. I think someone should absolutely improve the screens.
Well, I do think they're getting there. The
Not
power,
not just the quality of the visual display, which I definitely appreciate the advances, remembering that I did use those character user interfaces. And just to be clear, my history includes interacting with computers without screens because screens had not been invented. Okay. I have been around so long, people, that my first interactions with computers were either initially through punch cards and then later on through little teletype kind of typewriter things. So I remember when screens first came out, very exciting.
Why do I feel like you're doing a Trump impersonation when you're
oh no, I wasn't trying to.
Just your cadence. You remembered when screen.
So,
I think yes, I agree with all of that. I think,
and so I do believe me, I appreciate modern screens, but they're still too clunky and hard to use and large. And seriously, can someone tell me why when you plug things in, it's on the back and you have to put it face down to even get to the plugs? It's like, I don't get it. It's like,
well,
why make it
can I tell you the
difficult?
answer?
Well, you can, no, but I won't like it. What?
The medium term. Obviously, in the future, things will get better. But certainly in the medium term, what needs to happen is I think screens need to go to a USB standard for everything.
Yeah, seriously.
Right. So, for example, you have a screen. There's maybe I guess there's 2 cables that come out. One's a power cable, and one plugs into whatever
you want to
plug it into. Or there's a little dock, and then you plug just one cable into the dock, and then anything plugs into the dock, and it'll show up on
Yeah.
So this
doesn't seem that hard. I don't know. It really
is not. It's gonna yeah. So we're getting there on the screen thing. I do think I still would like to see screens that. I mean, and then there's flexible screens. Would it help if you could take a screen and roll it up in your pocket?
I don't know.
You know,
I had a flexible piano once.
Oh,
Seriously, that's been out for a long time.
Okay.
It's a keyboard. It's kind of cool, but didn't work great. Maybe I should get another one.
Oh, I think, yeah, no, I've seen these before. It rolls it up. It's a keyboard that you roll up.
Travel with it,
Yeah.
I might check those out and see if that technology's gotten better. But I don't know. Maybe flexible screen.
The other thing I think that maybe will help will be if we can. I mean, they tried it with 3-dimensional stuff, but if we could ever have a screen that has a little bit of like actually like a window, so
No, I'm not following you.
There's certain stuff that you can, if you look at a certain screen, it looks like you're looking into a window. Like if you look through a window, looking at a television screen looks different than looking out of a window.
Okay.
Right. So the screen tech needs to improve so that it kind of looks identical. Like, why are there not fake windows where you go into a restaurant and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that wasn't a real window? It's because the screens aren't good enough. They're not bright enough. The thing is not there. There's no parallax. Is that what it's called? Where you kind of go from what's it? So, so you could see screen tech moving in that direction too, where you have, so Windows is finally going to get there. It's been 45 years and Windows will finally look like a window. As screens do get brighter, that will help though, because like if you look outside on a sunny day, it's like a quadrillion lumens. It's so bright on your face.
Right.
Whereas if you look at a screen now, it's like 400. So you can kind of use a screen in a dark room and it's kind of bright. But like really, you need that sort of, that's the whole thing with HDR brightness. I'm not going to go there. So there are obviously improvements that need to happen with screens. I think that the response from a UX perspective, the responsiveness is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the most responsive technology thing we have? A screen? Where when you do something and you get feedback, and humans really need that instant feedback. The way that when you write on a piece of paper, right, you get instant feedback of what you're doing because it's in the real world.
I don't, I'm preparing a session I'm going to give about feedback. I think it's next week. And I don't think that, I think the amount and type of feedback, I think we've gone backwards a little bit. So yes, humans need feedback. They like feedback. But the feedback's got to be accurate and useful. I don't know that we always do that. But yeah, you can give pretty accurate feedback on a screen. The thing that we probably should talk about next time, because I don't think we have time. You've been talking about how we interact, and you mentioned briefly the keyboard. And then we didn't go back to that.
To the keyboard, yeah.
So we probably need to tackle that coming up pretty soon, Guthrie, because right now, using a screen, we usually interact with a keyboard. And talk about a technology that has been around a long time, hasn't had many changes, really, from an interface point of view. I mean, I know there's been a lot of
Microsoft is going to be adding a Copilot key.
Oh, there you go. That's a big change. No,
replacing the Windows key.
There's just, the QWERTY keyboard invented in the 1880s, I think. So, which has its own very weird and argumented, if that's a word, history. Really, that's what we've That's what we're still using.
And the mouse.
And the mouse, which I don't know if you've heard there's a great podcast about in China about the keyboard and what because that's a whole nother thing. So yeah, I think if we're going to stick with screens, Guthrie, then the next thing we have to tackle is the keyboard, is the input.
Well, I mean, I think it's, with the AI stuff, and this is going to get into, I still don't understand why we can't get digital keyboards, right? Like a camera looks at my why can't I type like this and the AI look at my fingers and figure out what I'm typing, right? Like this should not be hard. It should not be hard to figure out where my fingers are going, or if I'm doing it this way.
Why would you be typing?
Here you go. This is perfect. You're in your kitchen, right? You're cooking. You got your cell phone. You're watching your videos, okay?
Yeah.
You get an email from your boss saying, hey, what's the status of this project? Okay. You got marinara on the stove. You don't want to leave it. So what you do, your phone has a time of flight sensor, which is like a little LiDAR thing. So it's mapping your things. Okay. You pull up your email program. Okay. And then instead of like typing this whole thing, right? You say like, hey, AI bot, I need to send an email to my boss, Greg, and it pulls up the application with the email, and you just go like this.
You mean in the air?
In the air or on the surface, you're tapping away, right? And so you can actually use a keyboard, not at your keyboard. And then it fills it out because the AI you should be able to predict where your fingers are. You have facial recognition. There's only so many combinations.
In that situation, in the air would be useful because you probably have food on your fingers and you don't want to be touching your screen anyway.
But or wherever, right? But there, I don't understand why we don't have the ability to just type and be able to type wherever, whenever, that kind of thing. Like that would make life really easy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
All right. Another way, like maybe we should all learn like AI SL, like AI sign language, where we could do like a thing, like learn sign language in some ways, and then you could communicate with an AI through sign, so that we could like spell out stuff on a train without people like seeing what's going on. With like,
well, they'd see you.
No, I guess that's true.
But you wouldn't. At least you wouldn't have.
Yeah. So I know, but at least this with the fingers. I'm angry about that. The same with a mouse, right? Like, why can't I take my phone, walk into any room that has a television, one cable into the bottom of my phone, and now I have a computer on my TV. And Samsung tried to do this with DeX, so props to DeX, but no one used it, so whatever. And then it's up there on the screen, and I just go like this, and I can just use Windows like this, and I open up an email, doop boop, and then I type in the air, right? Do what I want, and you could do this on any keyboard, or sorry, any screen. So you have your phone, which is your portable keyboard, and you walk around, and then you can just interact with your finger in the air and doing like that. And that's basically AR. You could have screens in a bunch of different places and do it that way, or even have like a projector in your phone where you could, if you have a wall, you just project and you do it that way. So I think there are ways that we can get more mobile, but you still need that screen. But yeah, why don't we have good physical AI replacements for keyboards and mice?
There you go. Work on it.
You work on it. Sure.
All right, Guthrie, before we go.
Yes.
And I said I was going to do this at the beginning.
Oh my God, we're the worst.
Why do we never do
so
things at the beginning?
We're so bad at marketing. Someone please save us.
Someone help us.
Help us, please.
Okay. We have if you would like to up your skills or up the skills of your team, we have some ways to do that. So we have a in-person workshop in Columbus, Ohio, the Behavioral Design Workshop on May 16th. We have an in-person workshop in Columbus on, I don't remember the date, Guthrie, get this for me, on UX leadership. And the date of that is... Guthrie's looking at it.
That is going to be... where is my account? Your events. No hosting. I went to meetup.com. That's the wrong...
You don't even know where our event is?
Eventbrite. Sorry.
Eventbrite, yes.
Eventbrite.
So what's the date of the UX Leadership in-person workshop in Ohio?
The total events. The behavioral design is May 16th, and the other one,
UX Leadership.
UX Leadership is June 4th.
June 4th.
I'm sorry that took so long. I had to log into 7 different things. That was
all right. And then we have an online behavioral design workshop that Smashing is hosting.
Yep.
And that's over the course of several different days, so it's kind of complicated. It's Monday, Tuesday, and then next week, Monday, Tuesday. Anyway, that starts on May 6th. That's through Smashing. So, Guthrie, if people are interested in signing up for the in-person workshops, where would they go?
They are going to go to info@theteamw.com. You can email and I'll get you in touch, or you can go to Eventbrite and take a look for those two events in the Columbus area. One is just called Behavioral Design Workshop, and the other is called UX Leadership Workshop.
Yep. And if you're interested in the Smashing workshop, just go to smashing.com.
All right. Well, I'm sorry that was like maybe we should have kept the screen thing a little tighter, but it was a little. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there, and I think too often we get caught up in these hype cycles.
Yeah.
In tech, and what's next, and maybe we should appreciate the things we have more often, like screens.
Let's appreciate the things we have in our lives.
It's a good note to end on.
So I hope you can stay warm.
Stay warm. Well, hey, it's not. It's way colder where you are.
Oh, okay.
Than where I am. So it's cold here, but it's not
negative, that bad.
Negative whatevers. So yep, I will talk to you very soon. Thanks for chatting. Right. Thanks everyone, and we'll have a great warm rest of your week.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bye.